Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as we look at the football cards of Ultra for 1994 and 1995. Now, in 1993, Fleer had basically kind of hit its mark. It knew what it was. It had kind of perfected card design. It really had kind of hit its own and was ready to push forward as a continuing brand for what it had been. It knew that it was the insert brand, and it also knew that it was making really pretty high quality cards. Even the base Fleer brand for football and for baseball were kind of nice cards. They weren't elite cards, but they were looking pretty good. So they decided to kind of double down on this for 94, and they went with the inspiration they'd gotten with their 93 Fleer baseball set by going minimalist. The problem was that they tried too hard and they forgot the basic component of cards, which is that the card itself is supposed to kind of stand out. It's supposed to jump out and be noticed. And this was really the problem for 94 for Fleer. Their base brand, they went very minimalist with a white border and an image inside with almost no detailing at all. They had some gold detailing for the text, but it was gold foil, and so you almost couldn't notice it. And the white border kind of detracted from the image, which rarely stood out. So the image itself kind of got lost. You didn't really see the player. And the text was difficult to see because you had to get the light just right. So if you're flipping through and you find these cards, you blow right past them. However, if you take the time to look at the cards, you notice that they're actually really, really nice cards. It's just they were designed in a boardroom. They were not designed sitting on the carpet surrounded by a whole bunch of empty packs. That's the problem that we have as card collectors, is the fact that we experience these cards in a very dynamic way, and they don't design cards that way very often. And this was a tragic case of that. And so with Ultra, they ran into very much the same problem. They had a 3/4 bleed card with an image that, in the case of Ultra, was actually very well selected. Most of the Ultra images do look good. The problem is the cards are too dark, and the image basically kind of gets lost inside this darkness. And even with the rich colors, it just doesn't quite jump out. And then the detailing is almost all gold foil. They have a band of gold foil on the bottom that has some texturing in it. They have a big logo. They have some text, and then they do have one line of the team color that streaks through the middle, but that's basically it. That's the card design. And the problem with that is the fact that you don't really see the gold at the bottom. Most of the time, the gold foil doesn't really read very well, and so it's just the image, and the image doesn't grab. Now, 94, a lot of card companies had gone with 3/4 or full bleed cards and tried to go with this elegant approach. Bowman and Pacific both tried cards that were almost exactly the same as what we had here, and all three cards kind of failed. Ultra actually held up pretty well. The card wasn't a failure per se, but it didn't jump out. It didn't stand out. It didn't grab people's attention. If you took the time and really looked at the cards, they're really nice cards. They just didn't grab their own audience. Now on the card back, it's actually not too bad because it's a big mess, but it's a bold and flashy mess that has its own allure to it. It reads pretty well on an individual basis, and if you have a pile of cards, they look great in that way. You really can't read the information on the back of the card, but that's okay. That's kind of always been the case with Ultra. You don't really care about the information on the back. But the backs of these cards do kind of stand out. So that is the one part of the card that I think was a success, and it was a success really because it was a mess. Now, they had two series. They had Series 1, Series 2, and Series 1 had rookies in it that were basically in their college uniforms. In Series 2, they had them in their regular NFL uniforms. So Series 1, the rookies look kind of cheap. In Series 2, they look a lot better. And along with the tradition of Ultra, they didn't have any subsets, but they did have one standout card, one unique card, which was the NFL 75th anniversary. And this looks kind of like a Disney cartoon slide, like a Donald Duck Presents card. And it's got a big green burst coming out from behind the NFL 75th anniversary logo. And the card is really, really bold. It is a cool looking card. And it makes me wish that they'd actually worked that into the set a little bit more with more of these cards. It definitely fits with all the inserts, but as far as the set goes, it's a really unusual card that jumps out. And then along with the tradition of their checklists, like with 93, they had individual players on each different checklist. So the front and the back of the checklist featured the image of one of the player cards in the set. This included Joe Montana, Anthony Newman, Terry Allen, Michael Haynes, Kyle Clifton, Kenneth Davis, Fred Stokes, and it also had Anthony Miller in his Denver Broncos jersey. And the collectability of these cards in this particular case, because Joe Montana is included in it, this should kind of be something that factors into people's hunting down of cards, but for some reason, this checklist has always seemed to kind of fly under the radar. And so it's kind of a hidden treasure in this set. But Fleer was about collecting inserts, and this year was no different. Starting off, the performance highlights set for this year was Rick Mirer, and he was Rookie of the Year. So that was the theme of the set. It was Rookie of the Year. And the cards came in either blue or in green. They weren't parallels, it's just half the cards were a blue finish and half the cards were a green finish. And a lot of these cards come with him in his Notre Dame jersey. Like in previous years, they had a send-away, and they also had autographs. But that was the only one that they did. They didn't do any other players for Ultra. They did in Fleer, but they didn't in Ultra. They also had their Achievement Awards insert, and this is a really bright, flashy, and gaudy card. It is an overly done card. It jumps out too much. The player kind of gets lost in it, and I love it. I really love these cards. The over-the-top quality of the colors, to me, just it rings out really well. And unlike the previous year with their rookie cards, these cards with the two colors that they have on each card, which changes by player, it works beautifully. You can look at the background, and there's not much to see in the background, but it works as a frame, and it swallows up the player. And so what you're looking at is the frame, but it's a really cool frame. It looks really neat. Now, this is probably better in pages than to be on display, but these cards do look great. They also did a 5-card award winner set, and in this case they have a cutout of the player, and then in the back they have the full image of that they had cut the player out from. So it's the player and the background, but it's squeezed, and they have 3 different panels of that same image. And they're alternating between colors of the 2 colors of the team. The cards are way too busy and they look good, but you can't see anything in the cards, and that's fine. It's a big, busy mess, and I'm good with that. I really like these cards. First, we have the first rounders. Now, the first rounders are kind of overdone. It's kind of a Photoshop mess. It's a black background, and they have some neon, kind of 80s-esque stuff in the background. They're okay. They actually look pretty decent. It's just they tried to do too much, and instead of failing, they just didn't succeed. So they're okay. They're not really the cards that you're going to seek out necessarily, although on an individual basis, they do tend to look pretty decent. Then the second year stars, on the other hand, this is an under-designed card that does succeed very well. It's a black background with a firework explosion and the player in front of it, and that's it. That's the card. On an individual basis, these cards don't look good, but when you put them on pages, they look fantastic. These are the cards that really are fun to look through a whole group of these cards. And then the 2 more rare insert cards are both foil covered, and they're both horizontal. The first one is Ultra Stars, and this one is a simplistic card with a cool effect in the background that is kind of lost. It's a whole gold foil treatment behind the player, and it has a bunch of logos for 94 Ultra with bursts behind them that's all etched into the gold foil. And if you take the time to look at the card and move it around, it's a neat card. But if you don't do that, then it's just too much gold behind the player, especially considering that it's the horizontal format. So it's a card that is more about experience than putting on display. Conversely, the Touchdown Kings is a completely foil card with different colors in it, and it has some stuff going on. So it has kind of a football theme below, and then it has a burst with multicolors above it. And with all of the stuff going on, it reads a lot better. And then it has 2 shots of the player on it to kind of balance the card out, and so that it gives a lot of information going on in it, and it looks fantastic because of that. So this is probably the most interesting of all the cards in this insert group. It may or may not be the best card design. You know, that's kind of a personal choice, but it is a very good success. Now, for Series 2, they didn't go ahead and do the regular inserts. It's kind of an interesting thing that they did, because they did not make a 94 Flair football set. Instead, they decided to make the inserts for the Flair set as if they had made the Flair set. They decided to make those inserts, but put them in as the inserts for Ultra Series 2. So 94 Ultra Series 2 has 94 Flair inserts, but there's no 94 Flair set. It's a really weird idea that they came up with, and it was a weird experience to have, because they're Flair cards, so they're thicker, and they're not Ultra, but they're the cards that you're finding in the Ultra set. So very unusual approach to take. And these cards are very, very, very vibrant in their colors. You thought the Achievement Awards card was vibrant. These are extremely vibrant, and it's because of how much is going on in it. Now these are the regular 3 Flair sets. So it's Hot Numbers, Wave of the Future, and Scoring Power. The Hot Numbers cards are, it's like Mardi Gras. It's a bunch of different colors thrown in there. They're really cool. They're very, very bright. They're very rich, and they work beautifully in that way. It's not really a card to look at, it's a card to experience. Wave of the Future, on the other hand, goes the opposite direction. It's one color and then the player in front. And the boldness of these cards, I'm not a big fan of, but it's not a big set, so it works decently enough, but they were definitely going with bold here. And then the Scoring Powers card this is the most elite of them all, and they designed it in that way. So it's a really rich and intricate card that looks really nice. For 95, they decided to go more minimalist, and here they wanted to go very, very 90s. They knew they had to go 90s, and they just weren't doing parallel cards, and they knew that they had to do that. So that became the thing for 95 Ultra, was their gold medallion parallel, which you'll see a lot of it. And it's not just the regular set, it's all the Series 1 inserts as well. Not the Series 2 inserts, just the Series 1 inserts. This is a slightly thicker card than had been done in the past, and it was a full bleed card with not well selected images. The Series 2 images were a little bit better than the Series 1 images, but when you do a full bleed, you need the card image to work, to jump out and be the whole card, and they didn't quite pull that off. But this set was never really about the original cards, it was more about the parallel, which was kind of overdone as it was. So they had basically like a plaque for the player name with some gold detailing on it. And then the parallel of it was the same shot of the player as a cutout with solid gold behind. The entire card is gold, and they don't even have any lines on here. So all of the detailing that was on the original card is done in embossing. So the plaque is embossed, the logo is embossed, and right around the player is a big gold medallion logo imprinted around that back area, again, all embossed. And when you first see these cards, they look really cool, and then after a while, they all look the same and they become really boring. So this was a set that we were completing for the sake of completing the set. It was pretty much across almost the entirety of Series 1 and Series 2 inserts, etc. Get the main cards, get the parallel cards, but that was the whole point of the parallels, was to try to get that level of trying to collect these cards in bulk. The card backs, this was the first year where the card backs for Ultra did not look good. They were very muted. They actually had more information on it, which was nice, but the set was starting to be treated more like a base set rather than a premium set. And the backs came in 2 different colors. For the NFC, they came with a silver treatment. For the AFC, they came with a gold treatment. Series 2 was not really called Series 2. It was actually called Ultra Extra. And it started off with traded players and stars who hadn't been discovered yet. All of the sets, Series 1, the Series 2 here, and all of the subsequent subsets, well, the first 2 subsequent subsets, were all based upon teams. So it started with Arizona and ended in Washington. And so after the very small group of traded, etc. players, then you get to the rookies. And these rookie cards, again, they had rookies in Series 1, but these rookies were an actual subset. This was the first subset, actual subset, they'd done in Ultra. In 91 and 92, they had a rookie grouping that was kind of like a subset, but here it was an actual theme, and they had the card much more simplified than previously, but they had the word rookie running down the side of the card. And that made these cards look really good. These were the first cards, if you're going numerically through, these are the first cards that actually look cool. And the gold foil version of this card had, as had been done in the past, all of the detailing became embossing except for the name. There's kind of a box where the name shows up, and they did that as a black so that they could have the text of the name actually stand out. So in this particular case, you could read the text. It looked good. So that was an odd little quirk that they did to that. Then the next subset was Extra Stars, and this was 2 cards for each team, so it was 60 cards. They did color fade into a background. So on the left side of the card, they had the color of the team, and then it faded into a background image. And it wasn't a background of the player cutout. It was a whole different picture. So the 2 are totally unrelated. And in this case, they went back to all the detailing was embossed. So they didn't have any boxes or any special colors that actually came through. The next subset was rollouts, and this was a much smaller set. It wasn't every single team. It was a smaller group of players. And here the card was horizontal, and it had kind of a three-phase image of each of the players, kind of like an echo effect. And that was kind of the design theme. And in the gold version, they had the two repeats of the player as textured elements, and then the spiral around the subset logo it kept its color, and along with a box with the player name in it. So that was the detailing that went into that. And then the set ended with Extra Effort, and Extra Effort was basically a bunch of minor stars that you don't really know about, and these were vertical as before. And in the gold version of the card, it again had the black box with the text in it, and then it had a couple of arrows that were in red, and that's basically the difference that they had in that. Now, the checklists in this set were not done in any special way, so it wasn't like 91, 93, or 94 where they actually had player images on it. These were just straightforward checklists, so they weren't collectible. Now, for the inserts kind of get a little bit crazy. They do a lot of stuff, and like I said, Series 1 they all have gold medallion versions, with the partial exception of one subset where it has a gold medallion version, but it's in silver, which we'll get to in a second. So of all of these, the best design is the first rounders, and the first rounders are cutouts of the player against a backdrop of the particular color's team with the logo spread out. It's almost like looking at a press conference. And in this card, you can see how they did the gold medallion. It's literally a gold medallion. So with all these inserts, they don't make the cards gold. They just change the Ultra logo to a gold medallion logo. That is all that they do. The Ultra Achievements insert set is a very garish card with kind of an obnoxious color and some colorful text in there. It's kind of a boring card, so it's there. Then there's the Award Winners card, and the Award Winners card is an overly busy card with a two-tone back for the player's team between the two. This is another one of those hot messes that actually looks good. It looks good because there's too much going on, but it's a good mess. Then you have the second year stars, and those are horizontal cards, and they're colored for the particular player's team, and there are two images, and then there's some busy stuff in there. And again, this is one of those that looks pretty good. This may actually be the second best looking card of the Series 1 inserts. Well, Series 1 and Series 2, because the Series 2 ones don't look very good. Then you have the Rising Stars, and these are acetate cards. So these are basically see-through. They're see-through around the outside, and then they have thicker plastic on the inside so you can't really see through it. So it kind of fades into a translucence on the outside. And it's a player with some planets and some stars, and it's one of the more expensive, one of the more rare cards, but it's not that cool, unfortunately. It's an idea they tried, and it just didn't work too well. Their acetate card in Series 2 would work better. For the Ultra Stars, they actually went with a silver treatment on it. So all the detailing is silver, and then this is the one where when they do the gold medallion, it's a silver medallion. It's called gold medallion, but it comes out as silver. And then there's the Touchdown Kings, and these are just about as good as the second year stars. I'm not sure which of these two I like. This is a more dark, muted color, but it's still deep and rich. And they didn't do too much on the cards, so they look great. These really do look great. I like these a lot. Now for Series 2, it's actually not Series 2, it's Ultra Extra. That's what the set is called. And like I said, they didn't continue the parallels. However, for the all-rookie team, they did do a parallel, and this is their hot pack parallel. For those of you not familiar with what hot packs are, they're packs that are filled only with inserts. And there are some companies that would do hot boxes, where the box was all parallels and inserts. But in this case, they just did hot packs where the whole pack was one set of cards, and each one had a version of the regular card with hot packs on it. So for Ultra, it was the all-rookie team where they did this. So these cards are not worth as much because even though the hot packs were fairly rare, it was easier to get a whole set of these hot packs than it was to piece together the main set. Next was Magnum Force, and Magnum Force is a solid foil treated card, and it's difficult to see as a result. So you have the player, and then ghosted over the background image is the word Magnum Force, and that's it. It's really kind of an ugly card. The Overdrive cards are also foil cards, also difficult to see. They're a little bit better though because the background just is a big color with like a swirl in it. But otherwise, these are not well-designed cards. They have no parallels, nothing like that. They're just kind of there. I'm very disappointed with the Ultra Extra inserts. But fortunately, the last set, which is Ultra Abilities, this one isn't too bad. It's not as good as it could be, but it's broken down into 3 groups. It's the quarterbacks, it's the playmakers, and defensive players. So the quarterbacks have a red panel on the bottom, the playmakers have a green panel on the bottom, and then the defensive players have kind of a teal color on the bottom. And then the background, that orange area in the background, for quarterbacks it's a big spiral, for the playmakers it's kind of angled slash marks, and then for the defensive players it's like a big explosion. They're not bad cards. They do look pretty cool, but this is the high point for this particular set. So that's basically 94 and 95 Ultra. They didn't really do much beyond that, but they had a ton of inserts. And they were going to continue that tradition, not in the following year. 96 kind of scaled things back, and then in 97 they got really carried away with inserts. I'll be looking at 96 and then 97 and on in later videos, but this is what we have for these two particular years. Fleer had to kind of regroup after 95, because 95 was a year when they realized that they didn't know what they were doing. They thought they did, and then they didn't. And it's a shame, because you look at 93, it was great. You look at 94, and it was starting to be great, but they kind of lost it. So for 94, it's a jewel box set. It's one it's fun to collect, and the 94 ones are ones that I still think are worth collecting today. 95 was more fun collecting at the time. I don't really think it's quite at the same level, but let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed to my videos and you're curious about seeing some more, definitely subscribe. If you do like the video, I hope that you'll hit the like button, and thank you very much for watching.